It's 7 p.m. Pacific time, right on the dot. If your watch says otherwise, welcome to Momentum Live, episode 117. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Jamie Reynolds.
I'm Gray Williams.
I'm Will Silver.
Nailed it. And what do we say now? You can find out more about us at Momentous Live at momentus.tv/links. And our team at momentus.tv/team, and the audio version of this experience, whatever you call this, at momentus.tv/podcast. And we have none other than the lovely and talented Jamie Reynolds stepping it up, filling in for Tasia Custodi. Mm-hmm. You'll do.
Yeah, I enjoy second fiddle. It really is. It's my place in life.
But it's not your first rodeo,
married,
right?
So, yeah. No, I've done this a few times now. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited.
Pleasure to have you. Let's get right into it since we've got to make up for
What
lost
did introduce
time here.
everybody? Or no? Okay? You wanted to talk to me first. Fair enough. Go ahead.
Oh, these other guys, they know what to do.
Okay.
I got nothing to say to these other two, except Gray is broadcasting from an undisclosed location with
It has microwave internet. Microwave.
Nice.
robust bandwidth. Stand at least 6 feet away so you don't. Anyway, and of course we have Will Silver. We've already done the introductions. We don't normally do extra banter, especially when we're running late. But let's get into some follow-up, shall we? Last week we were speaking about the poop show that is Reddit. Gray, would you mind giving us a quick little recap of what happened last week in as neutral a way as possible? Because, you know, this is a news program with journalistic standards after all. And then what has since happened since we left our favorite social news site last week?
So I said last week that hell hath no fury like a nerd scorned. And Reddit did what we thought they were going to do, which was use the terms of service to threaten to oust the moderators of several popular subreddits. And so they have answered in kind with what I like to call malicious compliance, wherein they have basically taken the focus of their subreddits and made them like painstakingly literal in a lot of cases. Our picks is now only allowing our picks, our GIFs, and are now only allowing pics of John Oliver, and they are pics of John Oliver, they are GIFs of John Oliver, and moments of John Oliver that make you go, aw. Well, that sucks is now a subreddit devoted entirely to vacuums. It is just, like I said, we're not taking this one lying down, and it's delightful. In addition to that, we've also seen that hackers, from a breach a couple of months ago, are demanding $4.5 million from Reddit to not leak the data, in addition to also now asking for the API changes to be reversed, which is just a wonderful way to give some stick to the maniosis. It's great. And last but not least, we have Christian Selig, the developer of Apollo, who comes to the table with receipts. He has audio recordings. He has emails that debunk all of Steve Huffman's claims that Steve has made about third-party developers and about Christian in particular, to the point where this actually could be both a libel and slander case. It is just Schadenfreude. It's great. So Reddit, once again, continues to entertain, not for the fact that it is the front page of the internet, but that is because it is a steaming pile of BS, and that is being called out in such a beautiful, beautiful way. Was that
so? Just to catch people up that may not have tuned in to last week's episode, all this strum and drang is in response to Reddit's increasing the fees for implementing fees for access to their application programming interface, their API, which is basically shutting down all third-party apps because it's just untenable to be able to afford to pay, especially if they are very busy and popular apps such as Apollo. And we if you want more details on that, feel free to tune into Momentous Live episode 116, where we litigated all that. So this is just additional fallout from the situation. And Reddit's position with some of this is in response to a lot of the scraping that's been going on to educate large and train large language models, such as those by OpenAI, Google, and others. So they're like, well, if we got to, it was within their power to have 2-tier API pricing, and they didn't do this. This was kind of like a blunt instrument, but they're preparing for an IPO. They're trying to figure out a way to get profitable. So, there's business concerns there, but the CEO, who's one of the original founders of Reddit as well, his reputation in the whole community is really going down the drain with all of this as well, which is a real shame. Jamie, now you're a time Reddit user as well. Just with what has evolved or unfolded over the last week or two with this drama, any thoughts in there? If anything, any ways that you can see that maybe Steve Huffman, the CEO, could have handled things a little bit better here as regards party apps and whatnot?
Yeah, I don't know the inner workings, the machinations behind why all this is going on, other than trying, like Graham says, right? Gray says the trying to maximize profit and to become profitable. As far as I can tell, everything is advertiser driven, so they want all the advertising to go through generally the Reddit mobile app is what we're talking about here, because the desktop app, I think, like, I personally use the regular desktop app, but on mobile they didn't have a mobile app for a long time, so all the third party guys came along, and then the ads get shown there.
And often those third-party apps don't show Reddit's native apps or ads. They get filtered out, and sometimes they'll show their own ads instead. And of course, Reddit has an issue with that, understandably. Yeah.
So I think it's the thing that I think strikes me as really quite fantastical is that nobody is getting paid to create all this content for Reddit. It's all just simply user generated, and people put it up there for free for magic internet points. And then the Reddit itself is trying to overly monetize this, and people are finally saying, you know what, maybe we just need to do whatever we want to do. We are the public. We are the ones who are actually, we're the citizenry of Reddit, and we're going to rise up against the oppressor, and we're going to have our own little revolution. So it's a bit of a French Revolution style situation going on with a lot of John Oliver. Yes. And it's very disturbing John Oliver pictures as well. I've noticed a lot of cabbage with John Oliver lately. I don't really know why.
His first love. He married a cabbage once.
Okay.
Haven't we all?
So because I kind of just go on Reddit just to waste time. So I was actually looking forward to this whole situation because I could stop going on there as much. But now I just go to Twitter. So, and I scroll through Twitter because it's gotten much more lively and much more interesting. So I like controversy. So I go where the controversy lies. But it's I think, again, underappreciating what your audience is and who your contributors are is it's very myopic. To me, it seems very myopic to actually take this resource that is in essence free. You have a free resource, and to dump all over it seems counterintuitive to me.
So the one final thing that Gray's got to say before we wrap this up and move on.
Yeah, so we know that there is Occam's razor, and there is Betteridge's law, and there's Godwin's law. The inevitability of anything involving John Oliver connecting to cabbage is known as Cole's law.
Delete your account.
That was worth it. So worth it, Gray.
Anyhow, in terms of things that Reddit maybe could have done a little better, given they could have given third-party apps a bit more time to adapt, because they've got people who have subscribed to some paid third-party apps. Some of these have annual subscriptions, and now some of them are looking at having to refund customers for the rest of their 12-month subscriptions. Like, that's a huge out-of-pocket expense for third-party developers, and that's not great. They could have given a bit more notice, maybe been a bit more collaborative. One other take I heard was that given what Reddit has, their content is solely generated by the community members, and the moderators help with all that. And so much of Google's most relevant search results actually come from Reddit nowadays, because people are asking questions, answering questions. They're sharing all sorts of nonsense as well. But when you ask Google specific questions, a lot of that, those top results come from Reddit pages. And subsequently, a lot of that information gets sucked up by the large language models, such as OpenAI's ChatGPT. And so on. One take I heard was that, why doesn't Google simply buy Reddit? Like, is Reddit even viable as a business on its own? Does it make more sense as a feature of a larger entity like a Google, as a crowdsourcing feature, which is, it's a social news site, and that's what it's been. It's a community of communities. So maybe a larger player, and if not Google, maybe Gray would like Meta to buy them, because that's, as being a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg. I don't think Apple would get in that game. I could see Amazon in, like, as a chaos move, might do something like that. I mean, they
Chaos move.
Well, they did buy Twitch, right? Like, so
what you gonna do?
exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see how much damage is actually inflicted on Reddit by this whole move. I mean, they're threatening to can a bunch of these volunteer moderators and the like. But will anyone who may be considering investing in an IPO, might they get cold feet because they've lost faith in the management and so on? Anyway, before it's almost time to move on. But Will's got one thing to add.
So I maybe you guys knew this. Sometimes I can never remember how many layers of Inception jokes we're doing. But one of the things about the cabbage is it could be possibly a slight dig both at John Oliver and at Reddit, because John Oliver did a whole thing when AI images came out, and it was about the community somehow doing things with cabbage, and then he did a whole thing with cabbage, and so all these images generated through Midjourney, and I think it was mostly Midjourney, and they were all cabbage images. So posting about John Oliver with cabbage is probably an extra dig. If I missed the subtlety of the fact that we were all acknowledging that we knew that, I thought I might just say it out loud for those who have no idea what cabbage and John Oliver have to do with each other.
And John Oliver is kind of the poster boy for community action nowadays as well. They do a lot of things on his show Last Week Tonight. Now, one final point from Gray. Oh, I thought you wanted to jump in, Gray. Did I misread your body language?
No, yeah. So I was just going to say, like, yes, moderators who are doing all of this volunteer work for us, you're fired.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
And we no longer have a company. Bye.
Volunteers, you are the weakest link. Uh-oh.
All right. Moving on to a quick bit of other follow-up that I was kind of hanging on to for when esteemed guest Jamie Reynolds would join us again, is you may recall, Jamie, when we did our anticipated picks of 2023 back in January, one of the tech things that you were most looking forward to was at that point only rumored Google Pixel Fold. And then a few weeks ago, it was actually revealed to be a genuine product, and seems to be a pretty attractive entry into the folding smartphone space, competing with the likes of the Samsung Galaxy Fold series, which is now in its 4th generation, and others from Motorola, Royal Flex Pi, and the like. So now that this is a real product, Jamie, that is going for the princely sum of anywhere between $17.99 and $19.79 US, is this going to be on your Christmas wish list, or what are your thoughts on it?
No.
Did Google nail it?
No. Yeah, I think they did for the right. It's just a niche product. It's kind of a cool idea. I don't wake up every morning thinking, oh, you know what? I really wish my phone could fold open so I could do this with it. And do
it was your most anticipated.
You know what?
For 2023,
I had to pick something. I don't know. It was kind of neat, that they're getting into the game along with Samsung. Maybe drive the price down overall. Maybe
hopefully eventually. Yeah.
I could, because it's kind of a. It's a neat idea, just a foldable phone. Again, if we talked about this 20 years ago, that you'd be able to have mobile phones that you could pull out your pocket, fold open, and the screen would be there, and you could just use it, then fold it back up and put it down.
And the screen bends. What?
It's magical technology. Again, Samsung's the ones who really pushed it, and it's probably been licensed from Samsung to Google, I'm guessing. But it's a neat idea. It's going to be too thick for my pocket. That's where I keep my phone. And
you and your skinny jeans.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta keep the Simon Le Bon look going. But it is still very cool stuff. As I get older, I am less excited about all the new technology. I like things to just work, and so I've got my phone that I upgrade every like 3 years maybe, and I've got my computers, and it kind of just does my thing, you know. But it is still a cool idea, and I think they've done a nice job with creating a technology for the right person that is usable. But really, when it comes to use case, it's kind of just a neat thing for me.
All right. Well said. I'm glad we finally got to get your official take on it.
There you go.
All right. Now, in other Google news from the Google Graveyard department, Gray's going to tell us about the latest Google service to be no longer with us very soon, and that is Google Domains.
Google Domains. So if you had a domain registered with Google, if you wanted to have a domain name, you know, a .com, a .ca, a .info, a .org, a whatever, you can't get a .bank, oddly enough. I tried to. Can't do it. Well, it's really memory.bank and just doesn't exist. But you could go to Google, and you could do this as part of your, you know, Google Workspace stuff. And so they've allowed people to register all of these things, and they've decided that it's no longer profitable, which really boggles the mind, because when you were looking at the pricing that they were doing for it, they were like GoDaddy style pricing, where you get the domain for a couple of bucks for the first year, and then they were charging like $20, $30 to continue on your domain registration. How that was unprofitable, I don't know, but they're calling it streamlining. And so they've now moved this over to Squarespace, and Squarespace is honoring the renewal fees for Google Domains for the next year. Squarespace is not a terrible price for the domain renewal. It's the sort of $20 that's average for a lot of stuff. You can get coupons through Squarespace so they can make it be cheaper. But this is just yet another thing that Google has taken. Now, in this particular case, I'm less frustrated than I've been in the past, because they actually did have someone continuing this service on for them. Usually when Google kills something, they take it up behind the shed, they put a bullet in and say that it's gone off to, you know, the pasture in the sky. This here, we're looking at the Google Graveyard of all of the things that Google has acquired and, you know, embraced, extended, exterminated. And it's pretty frustrating. This one, as far as things go, could be worse, but still, dick move, Google. Dick move.
Well, it's tough, because you don't want companies to not try things, and a lot of these things that have been killed some were acquisitions, some were things that Google just created themselves, and then, you know, they have an engineering culture, an experimental culture. Some of us may be familiar with the whole was it the 20% rule they had for years and years, where their staff could have 1 day a week to work on side projects, and that's where things like Gmail were born from. But it gets to a point where it's almost become a punchline. There are just dozens and dozens and dozens of things. And I mean, I searched for a similar phenomenon. Like, every company has projects that they kill, and, you know, products they don't support anymore or what have you. But with Google, and it's just, I guess, a function of their experimental culture, which is great in a lot of ways. But the trouble for users is that when they pour a lot of time into adopting certain services, and only had to have the rug pulled out from under them, and as short a time as 2 years. Sometimes it's like 10 years, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, that's a good run. But they're just, you keep scrolling this list, it goes on and on and on and on. And I think the potential side effect there is that certain people will just not trust Google anymore when they're thinking, when Google launches a new online service, especially. I mean, hardware products are another story, and they've been pretty good with that. They have experimented with a few things, but I don't know. Like, if you take the good, you take the bad, but the trust is going to be an issue for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie,
I kind of, you know, I've thought about that too, because there were some things that I would use and then they would disappear. Just an example. Well, again, I just related akin to evolution. These are, you know, new little subspecies that pop up, and then some of them evolve into something else. For instance, Google Duo was something that I was using quite a bit, and then that's now evolved into Google Meet. So they didn't kill it; they evolved it into something else. And so, you know, there's things that, you know, Google Home Max was another one on that list I noticed, and I have one and I love it. It's a great speaker, great for the distributed music throughout the house. But yeah, they stopped making those, which again, understandable. It's like I guess something similar to Apple had their speaker too. Do they still make that one?
They had something called the iPod Hi-Fi years and years and years ago, but they that only lasted a few years. That was an iPod dedicated device, but the HomePod is still going. It's been going since 2018. The first one was launched, Greg.
They still make it.
Yeah, they killed the first generation one eventually, and I think there's some engineering reasons for that. They had launched the Mini, which sort of said that the line was still going to exist, and then they've reintroduced a tweaked version of the original.
So, and again, and Google's done the same thing with their speaker systems as well. They've done different hubs and Nest hubs. So again, I to me, it's more akin to an evolution of things, and like I still use Google quite a bit. I use it for a lot of different things, and it's not like I use it and I say, oh, well, I wish I had that, or I wish I had that. It's, to me, it almost, there might be a little bit of pain here and there, but typically it hasn't really, made me too upset with the things that they've gotten rid of. I don't miss Google Plus. I just don't miss that.
Google Reader, I think, was the one that really upset a lot of people because there are more technical people who were fans of RSS curating their own news feeds and not being reliant on the social platforms for their news, which can be problematic because you're often subject to algorithms, and just curating your own news feed manually. But that is really something that most normal folks maybe just don't do. And there are other.
I think that's the issue.
Yeah. There are other RSS readers that for doing that thing, but
Yeah, it's they even did it for the Tristan. You and I know, a few of us know, the game called Ingress, where it was one of those 20% jobs where they created a game, and it was an augmented reality game in the world, and then it was a Google game, and then eventually they just said, no, we're done with it, and then the creator actually took it and has created Niantic systems, whatever it is, and so they run it off from there. But Google just didn't want it anymore, and they said, no, it's okay, we don't need it, it's good to go. And hey, you know what, that's just what happens. So I think it's just more of an evolutionary, it's almost like a biological system.
That's right. One of the other projects that was canceled, that was about 5 years old, killed just 6 days ago, was something called Grasshopper that I was not even aware of. And it was a free mobile and web app for aspiring programmers that taught introductory JavaScript and coding fundamentals using fun bite-sized puzzles. That feels like a bit of a shame, but again, with some of these things, maybe there just wasn't the traction there. Google, sometimes has challenges actually getting word out about some of these things. And I think, to your point, Jamie, that some of the things were such niche services and ideas, is that maybe they just didn't find a large enough audience, and Google couldn't figure out a way to monetize it, because Google largely monetizes through advertising. And so some of these things, they mean great services, even like the RSS reader, like Google Reader, like I think Google should have figured out a way to put like ads in an RSS reader, but maybe it didn't move the needle enough for them. And that's something that a lot of trillion-dollar companies have a problem with nowadays. Like, people are like, oh, for years, for like 15 years, people saying, why doesn't Apple release a television? I want a nice, beautiful television. But Apple's like, TVs are already an oversaturated, low margin business, and is it really going to move the needle for a $3 trillion company like Apple to really introduce a television set? So companies have to say no to things, but Google traditionally has been one to say, yeah, let's try it. And it's just like, it's the scale that gets. So I just hope it doesn't, like, people, it's the whole thing, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me like 256 times, we get to a kill screen.
This is the thing though, look at the list that you've been scrolling through. There's 100, 200 things on there. It hasn't hurt so far. So I think that's just, or it's hurt, whatever it's hurt, and they're still profitable. So they're like, we'll just keep doing it.
But so like it's not hurting their core business, like the core search business per se, but the trust in people wanting to adopt any new offerings, I think is where the danger might happen. Right. So anyway, but just Google, go check out killedbygoogle.com if you want to have a walk down memory lane. 288 projects there.
There you go.
Wowzers. All right, moving on to our main stories of the day. In the last couple of weeks, there's been all sorts of a flurry of excitement around UAPs. So for those who don't know what UAPs are, they used to be known as UFOs, unidentified flying objects. But then, so that people would take things more seriously, because there's a lot of wingnuts who have been in the old school UFO community and have been disparaged by a lot of people in the proper scientific community. Now there's a term in the last couple of years called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. But more recently, that's even been tweaked a little bit to unidentified anomalous phenomena. So not all of these things are aerial necessarily. Some of them are transmedium. Some of them may go into the water and out again, or maybe they're interdimensional, as we've discussed in the past as well. So not necessarily aerial phenomena per se, especially if they have legs and walk around Las Vegas and people's backyards and they're 9 feet tall. So Jamie, could you sort of adding fuel to this fire is that there was a whistleblower came out and said that the U.S. government has been sitting on top of all sorts of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
Jamie,
yeah,
as our resident UAP MOMENTOUS correspondent, can you walk us through some of these recent stories?
It's just fun. There's no real hard evidence. Again, that's all I'm waiting for is I want somebody to actually say, here is a piece of something. So there's lots of stuff going on right now to search for actual evidence. There's a group that is actually dredging the Pacific Ocean looking for an interstellar object that has actually been confirmed to have crashed there. Most people think it's a meteor, but there is some thought that it could be something else. And so there's been some stuff discovered there. The Las Vegas thing, I have no idea. Nobody really seems to know what's going on there. It seems fake, but the people seem very genuine. And I think people can sometimes just see strange things at night. And
it's probably Bigfoot. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just Bigfoot. But what's happening now seems to be, and I'm kind of going along this theory, is that this seems to be the slow drip of disclosure going on, that there is something going on. Some people know more than others, and they know they can't keep it secret forever, and whatever it is, and maybe they don't actually know, but they know there is something. And this seems to be there's people saying more and more things, very credible people that have come forward recently and said, I have talked to people who have had direct contact with some of this stuff, people high up in the intelligence communities. And I've just decided to come forward and say, this needs to be dealt with. I'm coming forward with new whistleblower legislation in the States. And saying that this is something that we need to release to the public at large and say there is more to this story than just swamp gas and weather balloons. The latest one that I found fascinating was actually to do with the Canadian government. The website, the Liberation Times, I have no idea about it, but there's been corroboration to this story from what I've read. And through the Five Eyes Alliance between Canada, the US, New Zealand, Great Britain, and Australia, there's an intelligence sharing group set up for that. And there was a letter from one of the ministers, and I can't remember his position, but if you hold on right there, Tristan, on your screen at the bolded type there, scroll. Right there, the second paragraph, recovered foreign material is studied through the Five Eyes Foreign Material Program, which in Canada is sponsored by the Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, and they're sharing arrangements. And then before that, it says, it says we have UAP materials that is currently being studied in the Five Eyes group. And then it goes on to say, we're not part of the smaller intelligence group that is the US, Great Britain, and Australia. They have their own separate group. There is rumblings that group of 3 countries is going to come out and say something about UAP tech in the next little while. And this was a letter to within the government that was to say, we need to get in on this because we've been involved in this whole thing. We can't let them take the wind out of our sails. We need to be involved in this too. And this letter is apparently a legitimate letter that was sent within the Canadian government from department to department. And in essence, it says there is stuff that we have that is UAP related that is being studied. And we need to make sure that we're on top of this when it gets released. So it was kind of maybe it means something else. Maybe it's being misinterpreted. I read the letter. If it's legit, it sure sounds like they're saying, hey, whatever it is, something there that is zipping around. We have bits of it. We're trying to figure out what it is, and we can't figure it out. So it's just more little bits of information, and it's kind of getting people used to the fact, slowly, bit by bit. Hey, there's something going on weird here. There's something going on weird here. There's aliens, maybe there isn't. Who knows? Could be interdimensional. Could be we're a zoo. Could be who knows? All these strange things. So it's just a fascinating bits of data that exist out there, and more are coming through, more and more credible people coming around, and it's going on year after year after year, and it's getting harder and harder to discredit these people. So there just seems to be something there. What that something is, I don't know. But again, I will keep my tinfoil hat on and my ears peeled, and keep paying attention to the skies.
Keep your eyes on the skies. Well, it's one of these things. There's just so much heat on this topic over the last couple of years, and again in the last couple of weeks, where just because it's unidentified doesn't necessarily mean it's extraterrestrial. It could be just unknown technology from a rival power. Like, a lot of people think, well, is it Russia? Is it China? Is it someone else that maybe have made some advances that are beyond our current understanding of the tech, and they're testing things out, or they're trying to, shock and awe, or who knows what is actually going on there. And in the case of the U.S. whistleblower, it was an ex-Pentagon fellow named David Charles Grush. And like you had alluded to, Jamie, he had had contact with a number of people who had claimed to have come into contact with technologies of unknown origin that derive from non-human intelligence. So that is a bit more like actually really
getting close.
making a claim.
Yes. Yes. Again, it's this slow drip, right? And then you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. Oh wow. And there's a lot of speculation now that there will be some sort of acknowledgement that there's something bigger happening, and the slow drip really exists simply because the intelligence communities predict that if it was just all dumped out on people right away, it would create societal chaos in some ways. So who knows?
Will, do you subscribe to this theory that the increased amount of information we've seen over the last couple of years, especially as as part of maybe a coordinated campaign to soften up the general public, so that when actual news of, oh yeah, actually we've recovered a craft and here's some pictures, and people are like, oh, well, that's cool, and then they move on, or to avoid the shock factor that Jamie's describing that could potentially happen there? Or do you think that this is just like something even more sinister, like stuff to keep us distracted from real issues, climate change, what's going on in Ukraine, what's happening in Yemen, and so on and so forth? Or is it just a whole lot of nothing, and it's just, it's basically glorified weather balloons or other natural phenomena that are being, miscategorized or misrepresented?
I mean, I think I said this last time we had this conversation. I'm not really a big one on this type of information. I don't speculate on this kind of stuff so much. I'm all more power to people who want to
really
or
should.
like to, but I don't enjoy it, and I subscribe more to the theory that I don't disbelieve anything until the evidence is presented, sort of like Jamie said, and until then I choose not to speculate. If others choose to speculate, Jamie, have fun. Whoever, have fun. It's just not my bag of tea. So that's fine. It doesn't have to be my bag of tea. Other people who enjoy doing it, please enjoy. I don't want to take the wind out of their sails, but it's just not my thing.
So how are you preparing yourself psychologically for when the revelations, the hard, evidence actually revealed? Is it going to shake up your world? Are you going to be like,
a lot of cartoons? That's I'm getting myself ready, game face.
So it could be revelations. It also could be the beginning of the human harvest. We don't know. We don't know.
Sure. And I look, here's one of my things, and you know, I've said this before. I think it's here. And again, there's nothing against aliens. As a young kid,
They're not listening. Don't worry.
no,
Or are they?
I know, but it's nothing against aliens or the alien theories or anything like that. The thing that is with me is from a young age. I'm going to get into this now. I was bombarded in the 80s. Remember when styrofoam was going to kill us and the ozone layer, and there was a meteorite going to kill us and the killer bees? I'm still waiting for the freaking killer bees, okay? And this used to keep me up at night when I was a kid. And space aliens and all this kind of stuff. I don't want to get into the whole speculation and conversation about all these things. If it's something I need to deal with, let me know and I'll set my house on fire or something. I don't know. But if there's something I need to do, let me know. And until that point, I don't want to keep myself up at night worrying or speculating about things.
Fair point.
That's just the way I am. I mean, it's the same thing with asteroids. Asteroids used to scare the living poop out of me when I was in high school. It's like, oh, this one was super close. It's like 47 Pontiacs away from the Earth or something. It's like, oh my God, 47 Pontiacs. I mean, it's just like, here we are. So, I mean,
it's more tangible things to worry about.
I got more tangible things. I think also in my standpoint, I really have changed in the last year. I think you guys know why. And I'm just living one day at a time, and I don't want to worry about things that aren't directly right in front of me. So that's just also my stance on things is, and again, this isn't, I'm not trying to tread on anyone who enjoys these things. All I'm saying is I just enjoy the moment and I'm trying hard. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I enjoy the things that are in front of me, and I don't worry about things I can't control because I got enough things that are staring me in the face at the moment that I can't worry about space aliens or killer bees or styrofoam or Diet Coke's going to kill me or about the plastic, the non-biodegradable chemicals that are on my cooking surfaces. So when that stuff kills me, I'll go, no, CFCs.
All right. Well said.
Yes.
So speaking of, oh no, I was just about to get into like more alien technology, and he's back. Okay. Speaking of exotic, possibly alien technology, Gray is going to tell us about the Breville Joule Turbo, which is going to further feed his long-running obsession with sous vide. What is up with the Breville Joule Turbo, and what makes it so special, Gray? And why would you need to upgrade from your previous 2 or 3 devices to get this one? Oh, we can't hear you. Oh no. Oh, you're muted. That's why.
There we go.
There we go.
Hello. Hello. They managed to cut the cooking time in half from a lot of other sous vide devices. And so they've got an incredible software package behind this. Chef Steps, the folks that put out the original Joule, have been acquired by Breville. Breville's done a couple of things. They beefed up the components inside. And I've got an original Joule, and they're great. I've got an original Innova. It's great. I've just recently picked up a NeoVide, which was a Kickstarter, which is a vacuumless sous vide, which I'm going to have a little bit more of a report on later. But what they've done here is they're basically able to find a way to get water to temperature faster, and to essentially find a way to essentially massage food into cooking faster with this new software. I don't quite understand how the whole process is working, but from what I'm understanding, it does work. So for everybody out there who has looked at, a 1-hour operation to do chicken breast, or I'm staring at a lot of frozen screens here. There we go. This microwave internet's really not working for me. I need some sous vide internet. So it's $249 US, but they've offered a $75 coupon to anyone who owns an original Joule. So I'm taking donations.
So the thing that sets apart the Joule line and the Innova line is from traditional sous vide type systems of the past was these smart features. Now, what are the sorts of
Yes.
things that these smart features can do aside from getting the things warmed up more quickly for you? But what what do you do in the app that goes along with these smart sous vide devices?
So they're app connected, they're Bluetooth connected in the case of the original Innova, but they're Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connected in the case of the Joule and the Joule Turbo. And so right now I could actually start my NeoVide and my Joule, which are currently on at home, but not cooking. And I could start them and I could start a cooking process through Wi-Fi. Looking at this now, they've also got some great features where my NeoVide has a temperature probe that can go inside the food, so you can actually make sure that the temperature inside the food is at an appropriate temperature, which is great. Because that is a waterless sous vide, you can actually just place it inside the pan, and that will work. Also, with Joule and with their turbo mode, you can basically have an ice bath with the original Joule. You can have an ice bath, have food sitting at that temperature throughout the night, and then in the morning start your breakfast or start your lunch just by starting the temperature. When it gets to temperature, it will cook, and then it will not overcook because it's not getting past the temperature at which it's required to cook, and it's not evaporating any of the juices inside as well. So they've got some really cool things here with the Joule Turbo, where basically they're going through steps of a recipe that it can auto sense where you are in that particular process. Breville's done a ton of things with their appliances that are following this sort of process where you don't need to know how to cook. You just need to know how to follow instructions that this app is telling you to do.
So speaking of probes, do you figure this is the kind of technology that aliens are going to use to cook us when harvest time comes?
Let's look at it. It's the vacuum of space with a lot of probing. It's on brand.
Really quickly, Gray, what are a couple of your favorite things to prepare via sous vide method? Oh,
I think
we
you're
lost you.
asking what my favorite recipes are.
Oh yeah, the couple of the dishes you like to prepare using sous vide method.
Honestly, chicken breast and steak are two of the best things that I've done with sous vide because you can't overcook them, but it really takes a lot of effort. So, a steak or a chicken breast that's done sous vide and then finished in a ripping hot pan on an induction grill, my personal preference to go. And the 15-minute poached egg in the shell, 75 degrees at 50. Well, it's 75 degrees, 13 minutes, 2 minutes in an ice bath, and you have an egg that when you crack it, it's a poached egg that you can put directly onto a piece of toast and have poached egg on toast, and it's amazing.
Wow. So definitely caters to the enthusiast type. Now, Jamie, you've been on the vanguard in our community of friends, circle of friends, with regards to taking on different sorts of cooking techniques. You've one of the early adopters of a griddle in our circle of friends, and a few weeks ago we had some amazing deep fried butter chicken. We don't know a whole lot of people that will
deep fried butter chicken. Come on now.
Oh, sorry, not butter chicken. It was buttermilk.
It was a buttermilk chicken.
Buttermilk.
Yes, exactly.
So what's it going to take to get you into one of these Joule turbos?
Oh, I've actually been looking at doing sous vide for a long time. I love the fact that it is sort of idiot proof, and it just and as I get into the stage of my life when cooking, I have more time to cook. Sous vide is a more natural option when you really want to, cook something and really relish the fact that you're making something special and wanting to make it perfect. Sous vide is about the best way of doing that kind of thing. But yeah, it's the extra time that it takes, the extra preparation you need to do. You can't just throw something on the grill for 5 minutes and it's good to go. You gotta get ready to go. But with this new option, I think it's great. It makes things go a little bit faster and simplifies things. It's surprisingly pricey, but everything's surprisingly pricey to me these days. So I don't really know if that's correct, what it should be or not.
All right, moving on to just gaming corner. We got to take advantage of the fact that Tasia's not here to get a bit more gaming news in, because she just kind of tunes out a little bit. So just a few quick gaming stories, and I know Gray's going to talk about one, and then might get your input, Will, and Jamie, on a couple of these other ones here. One is that, Gray, starting with you, Valve gives Steam its biggest update and redesign in years. Real quick, what is the nature of this story? Like, what is the update like? Oh, Gray, did we lose you? Oh, hang on. There you are. All right,
Hi.
Gray. One more time. With this, what are some of the features and the improvements in the latest upgrades to Steam?
So they've got feature parity now between Mac OS, Linux, and Windows, which is great. The Steam overlay is a sort of a layer that goes into the game where when you hit Shift Tab, basically it will bring up this layer in game where you can see in-game chat. The neat thing about this is they've actually added the ability to pin these onto screen with translucency, even when you're still in game. So in the past where I've had chat going and I can't do that, it still allows me to see the chat going now where in game where I couldn't before. Games like Destiny, which I play frequently, the Discord overlay you can't have pop up over the screen if you're playing the game in full screen because it conflicts with BattleEye, which is the anti-cheat service. But Steam, it does not, because BattleEye is actually, I believe, run through some of Steam servers as well. So it's a really cool thing to see the feature parity come across for all of these things. This comes hot on the heels of Apple, announcing this tool to help developers port games to the Mac, which means that Mac Steam could actually become a much more robust marketplace for Valve if gamers are buying their games through Steam for Mac. So it's a good time to be a Mac gamer. The year of Linux on the desktop is just around the corner, so this could also be good for Linux as well.
One of the key things, it seems like, is Steam now supports hardware acceleration on macOS and Linux, and that is a game changer there. Definitely will improve the performance. Couple other stories of note. We had, was it a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about was it McDonald's Japan had Chicken McNugget Tetris, so a little Tetris handheld in the shape of a Chicken McNugget. Well, McDonald's is not standing still, because now they're going after additional retro gaming in the honor of Grimace's birthday, which is with a Game Boy Color game called Grimace's Birthday, which you can run in emulators, Game Boy emulators online, or in other devices that will play Game Boy games like the Analog Pocket. So that is one little bit of news. We've also got a new first-party Atari cartridge, which we haven't seen any. We've seen new Atari cartridges from independent developers, but this is the first one from quote unquote Atari, whoever owns the rights to that name nowadays, in quite a long time. This is called Mr. Run and Jump, and it's available not only for the Atari 2600, but some other modern platforms as well. And of course, it looks way better on said modern platforms, such as the PS5 and Xbox and the like. Not to be outdone, Lego has unveiled a Pac-Man arcade console that you could build yourself for the low price of $270 US. And it's a neat little arcade cabinet, kind of not entirely unlike ones that you can buy, those scaled down ones that actually play your favorite retro games. The only problem is this one doesn't actually play the retro games. You can move some things around on the screen using some handles, and that's kind of fun, but I imagine the novelty would wear off pretty darn quickly on that one. Will, any thoughts on any of those little gaming stories post Valve there?
Well, yeah, the Valve update is really cool. I think it adds a lot of features. It's also, this is partly leading to, I think, obviously Linux, as Gray said, but also, trying to improve Steam Deck long term and create better features for Steam Deck as sort of the first party, as more games are trying to adopt Steam Deck. And yeah, the McDonald's thing is kind of fun. There's a bunch of, as you said, third party or other companies that create sort of dead gaming console games. So there was a big thing a while ago for the what was it called? I want to call it the Panther. It wasn't called that, but whatever. Jaguar. There we go. I knew it was some sort of cat. There's a big thing about people creating games for the Jaguar, the Atari Jaguar.
That's a deep cut.
Also there's I think Gray mentioned this maybe last week, maybe it was off camera, but just Limited Run, which is a website and company that makes sort of limited run games, and they'll do everything from Nintendo NES cartridges to Game Boy cartridges to PlayStation physical editions, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, they do a lot of fun stuff in that space. So if you're interested in looking at some indie games that are on obscure actual cartridges, check them out. Limited run. I do not have a stake, nor am I an employee of that company, full disclosure. So, but yeah, they're a cool website in the gaming space. And then lastly, just as you're going through things, it may be hard to see, but over there I actually have the Nintendo NES Lego. It's kind of hard to see in the background. See where my finger is?
Nope.
Oh.
Here we go. One more time. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, look at that.
So yeah, so I put it there on purpose, just for props
And lulls.
and lulls.
Nice.
I have another prop later on. Just wait, kiddos. You'll love this on the audio version.
All right, Jamie, someone puts a gun to your head and says you have to choose either the McDonald's Grimace game, the Mr. Run and Jump for the Atari 2600, or the Pac-Man arcade Lego. What's it going to be?
Oh, the Mr. Run and Jump for the Atari 2600. There's something satisfying about taking one of those cartridges and clicking it into the game and flicking it on and having something pop up on the screen. I just remember that feeling as a kid, and even now, actually, I've got my 2600 at home in my basement with the old plasma TV, and I could hook it up there and play it. And every once in a while, I do, and it's fun. River Raid.
Love that game.
I know, it's a great game.
Yeah.
Even Combat is a great game. Or even what's the
E.T.
You know what? I like E.T. I don't know why people give it such a hard time. You know what? It's kind of weird and it's kind of cool and it's kind of weird, but it's there's something fun about that. So it would be neat to actually buy a new Atari 2600 game and pop it into my console. And if it actually worked, that'd be pretty cool.
Nice. Well, I have to admit, I have lots of fond memories playing Atari with you back in the day, Jamie. How many was that in the 1800s? Yeah,
1790 actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Little ET, little Raiders of the Lost Ark, River Raid. Was it Decathlon? Is that the one where we ruined all the joysticks with?
Yeah. Ruined the joysticks.
What was the name of the sub one? Was that Sequest or something like that? I love that game.
I don't know if I had that one. Yeah.
It's a classic. I love that game.
So great they made a TV series out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I have Kaboom with
Kaboom.
the little
So
paddles.
good.
Yeah.
So
I also
glad Paige
like
is
good
not here.
old hockey.
Yeah, hockey.
Yep.
I've got ice hockey. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving from games to streaming TV shows and movies, Netflix has recently had their Tudum event 2023. And in case you're wondering where that strange name comes from, any guesses? Tudum?
From their music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tudum. So there's a number of trailers that were released. They've got a show called One Piece, which is a swashbuckling epic. Heart of Stone, a vehicle for Gal Gadot. And we have news that Linda Hamilton will be joining season 5 of Stranger Things. We got a little teaser for Rebel Moon, which is the new Zack Snyder event that will be on Netflix. It was a strange teaser though, because it was not so much like a teaser or trailer, but it was almost all about like how great it is to work with Zack Snyder. I was like, okay, that's a choice. And I thought something that might interest Will, a very teeny tiny sneak peek into Avatar: The Last Airbender, which will be coming out in 2024 on Netflix as well. Season 3 of The Witcher, a whole bunch of Korean content. The Three Body Problem, which is based on the series of books. There's a series that's going to be coming out in January on Netflix. That looks really intriguing. We have an Indian take on the Archies, which that's another choice as well too. It's going to be interesting.
I watched that trailer.
Yeah,
that actually looks pretty cool.
Right. A little different than Riverdale, eh? Like,
yeah.
We've got some more gaming updates from Netflix. The Money Heist universe is expanding with an installment set in Berlin. and then some details on the season 2 of Squid Game, and news about Extraction 3. I didn't even know Extraction 2 was out. The first Extraction I thought was aggressively mediocre, as kind of like my hockey
Hot
skills.
take.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of their feature films are kind of fit that. They feel a lot of kind of paint by numbers to me, but
Yeah.
First world problems. There's also a Squid Game reality show called Squid Game: The Challenge that's coming. So a whole lot of stuff coming from Netflix over the next year, and that was their showcase. Jamie, anything jumping out at you from those announcements?
The Three Body Problem actually looks pretty good. I've never read the books, but I might actually pick those up and try and give those a read. The Archies was interesting when I saw that trailer, and some of the other ones, a lot of things seem quite derivative nowadays. The Berlin one, I watched the trailer for that, and it looks like Ocean's 11. Like almost word for word. So I'm not sure about that. But I like it when there's people taking chances. It feels like these days it's a lot of creativity by committee, and it's not great. And I find very little interest in watching a lot of things these days, because unless it has something that is new and different, I find it quite boring. So yeah, the derivative stuff these days just doesn't really draw, and I don't think it draws a lot of crowds, as we've seen with some of the latest offerings from Disney and its ilk.
Gotcha. Maybe Netflix is kind of like, in a way, they're maybe like the Google of streaming services, where they just throw all sorts of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, because there has been so many Netflix originals over the last few years, ever since House of Cards really blew things open for them. And then they were kind of doing like the prestige TV stuff for a bit, and then they just went off the rails and did everything. And then it got to a point there was a while, whenever I saw the red N logo in the corner of a TV show or movie, I'm like, pass. Because like, again, the quality was not quite there a lot of the times, but every once in a while there's a gem. So
and speaking of which, has everybody watched the latest season of Black Mirror?
Not yet, but there is a little tie-in there, because you can go to their new streaming service called Streamberry, as featured in one of the episodes of the latest season of
a few of the
Black
episodes
Mirror.
are relating to Streamberry. Yes.
and if you go to streamberry.tv, they have a whole selection of shows there, which are basically episodes of Black Mirror. That's kind of cute. Gray, anything jumping out at you from the Netflix announcements this week?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I watched a lot of these trailers, and they just seemed a whole lot like PowerPoint slideshows. So it really feels like the quality's gone down. The audio was terrible. There's a lot of buffering. So I really think that.
I wonder why that
really
is. Microwave. You should try sous vide internet. It's a little slow, but it's much more satisfying at the end.
It's a rich texture, really, is what I'm looking for. I can't get any of this crap to load. So
okay. Fair enough. Well, we'll see you in the next Squid Game. Will, I mean, aside from the one obvious, the one that I hope you're a little excited about, describe your emotions to us about that and any of the others. Oh,
I'm
you have
super
a prop.
excited about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
What are you showing us?
What is that?
You've got a prop. This is visual.
Yep.
It's a character from Avatar.
That's Appa.
Oh,
it's Appa
from the original animated series.
Yes, as Tristan
not the
knows,
movie,
and I think Gray knows, and I know Gray's a fan as well. I'm a massive Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not to be, you now have to say the whole thing, but Avatar:
not
The
Way of
Last,
Water.
Yeah, so not Way of Water. It's really up there in my favorite things that I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Like, wow. It's up there with Star Wars for me. I love it. The original animated show was like, I was obsessed with that show, as you know, Tristan. I think when we started hanging out, I couldn't talk about anything else. I was watching it constantly. The Legend of Korra that came out about 10 years ago was quite good. It wasn't as good as the original, but it still scratched the itch, and it was still quality, but really the original was best. I own a copy of the M. Night Shyamalan Abomination and have never watched it. I just can't bring myself. I think, Tristan, you gave me a copy. I just can't watch it. I can't watch it. It's sitting in my movie shelf, and I have not watched it. If this is good, I will listen to the early reports, and I just don't want my beloved franchise to be crushed in the same way. So I can hold on to the original animated series for as long as I need to, and if something is good, then I will watch it.
Well, I have a modest proposal for you. Just before Avatar: The Last Airbender comes out on Netflix, we need to do a viewing. You're going to get your Blu-ray disc. You're going to come over to the man cave, and we're going to watch the Avatar movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan, as problematic as it might have been, and it will make whatever Netflix rolls out feel that much better. All right? It'll level set your expectations. You're welcome.
Okay. I've only owned the disc for like 9 years or whatever it's been.
All right, we're into our home stretch here, folks. We've got our momentous picks, starting with Jamie. What is City Skylines 2? Oh, this isn't a pre-pick, is it?
Well, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to think of something again. You had me on kind of late here, so I didn't have a chance to really think about this.
Fair enough. And
So, anyway.
you made it very clear to us you don't like things.
Yeah,
nowadays.
True. I don't like things so much. No, City Skylines 2 is coming out in October, so it's not there yet. But they released a trailer which actually shows real footage from in-game. So this is something that I've been interested in. I've always loved the SimCity style games. I've always loved the city building, whatever it is, Roller Coaster Tycoon, all these kinds of things. And they've really done quite a job in increasing the realism, increasing the so many different things. Just the way that the roadways will interact with each other, and it just made a real realistic kind of city building game. And it's been a long time coming. They've been talking about releasing it for years, and they finally have it almost ready to go. So the trailer has come out just recently, and so I've just been excited to see that come out. It's a nice way to just, if you get half an hour, you can go and you can just build a city block just the way you want it, or do some terraforming, build your roads, whatever you want, and just make a city grow.
So you have been playing City Skylines 1?
Skylines 1, yeah, and they've been releasing DLCs for the last number of years to improve
content,
downloadable content for the last number of years to make it better and better and better. But there's problems with how the traffic is managed and all these types of things.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, so it looks like they've really done a lot of improvements when it comes to the UI and when it comes to the graphics, of course. And again, just makes for a real interesting way of building a city, and it's just taken the place of SimCity, which was the original city building simulator, and it is the premier city building thing. So it's coming out, but yes, it's not quite there yet. But the trailer's there, so at least that is a thing that's real.
That's your pick. This is the trailer. It looks super cool. Now, the level of control and customization, could you conceivably, if you had the time, start with a blank slate and recreate an existing city?
It's already been done in City Skylines 1. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've got Vancouver. You can download Vancouver. You can actually download, there's assets you can download, and I've downloaded, for instance, North Vancouver City Hall and Vancouver City Hall and the CN Tower and all the buildings wherever you want to go to, even the Power Block building downtown, and all sorts of things. So you can kind of put these things into new cities. You can build out cities the way that you want them, or create new versions of a city that you made already exist and kind of make it a little different. So, yeah.
Wow. It just occurred to me that this is almost like the modern day equivalent of grown men with giant train sets in their basement.
I know.
But you have so much more, so much larger canvas to play with there, and it scratches a certain. I mean, there's I don't want to even get into something like this, because I could see going down a huge rabbit hole, because I would want to make things just like too perfect. We can create a utopia.
Yeah, you can also launch like meteors at it, have UFOs come
Oh.
down and do stuff, and all the classic things.
Now you
can
got
do.
Will's interest.
Yeah, you can do floods, whatever you want to do, earthquakes, the whole bit.
Will, your momentous pick this week is something on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think listeners, viewers of the stream will know that I'm a huge fan of docs.
Documentaries.
Things, the things that I know less about, I tend to like the documentary more. I knew almost nothing about American Gladiators, the behind the scenes stuff. I used to watch the show from time to time as a kid with my brother. But, other than watching a number of episodes and enjoying it, I really just didn't know much about the personalities or the people or who was involved or the origins of it. And it is a crazy story. I know this is said a lot about documentaries. This one is a crazy story. I highly recommend it. Even if you hate American Gladiators, it's just a bizarre story. You've got to appreciate how many crazy time boxes this thing ticks. So I just, as a small teaser, that guy that we're looking at is an Elvis impersonator, and it partly started because of his involvement in Elvis impersonation. So yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a crazy story.
And so where can you watch this in Canada?
I watched it on TSN. I think it's a 30 for 30, so it's often shown because it isn't TSN owned by ESPN, or they've got a relationship. So yeah, so 30 for 30s usually end up on TSN. I think it's on HBO or Crave as well on streaming services. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. And again, I don't think you have to like American Gladiators to enjoy it. It's just a fascinating story.
Very cool. Well, I have to confess, I have never watched a single episode of American Gladiator, but
it was cool. I like that show.
was.
That was fun. Yeah.
The atmosphere was like on
Yeah.
point.
It's crazy where all of this came from. That's all I'm saying. I will leave it there.
Okay, to check it out.
So Gray's pick is a YouTube video that apparently makes this one YouTube video, this clickbait title, this one YouTube video makes the Avengers Assemble scene in Endgame 10 times better. What is this that we are looking at, Gray?
So this is something we have to put into the show links because this is all about audio. And so I don't know if we can stream the audio here, but it takes the themes from all of the heroes and integrates them together with the Avengers Assemble theme and syncs it up with the video. But even without the video, you can listen to this, and these iconic themes as they play makes this scene, it makes all of the lack of attention to the music in Marvel movies suddenly, my irritation with that goes away because it honors all of these themes. It's 2 minutes of your time. So if you're listening to the audio version, go check out the show notes and listen to this. It is absolutely glorious.
So you're telling me that this isn't something that was done originally? Like, what were they just playing, like just the generic music or whatever, the music for the scene, and they weren't the obvious? I mean, like, it seems like an obvious. They do that in Star Trek all the time. Whenever there's,
they do it in Star Wars all the time.
Yeah, and in the more recent, some of the more recent offerings, like a character shows, or sometimes you get a little bit of a hint of, like, oh no, is that ship going to show up? And boom, that ship shows up. And I think in Star Trek Picard we saw some of that as well. So it's funny. It seems like a miss for Marvel on this, but it's neat to see some of the fandom out there fixing the errors of these multinational media corporations.
Now, all they need to do is do it over all 25 movies and put them in chronological order.
Yes.
And
exactly. What's that, Greg?
I said, why do it yourself when you have your fans do it for you after the fact?
Exactly. Yeah. Very quickly, my momentous pick. I finally got around to seeing Oscar nominee A Triangle of Sadness. I watched that with my dad on the weekend.
Quite a show.
And it was my lovely wife Stephanie was not that interested after having seen the trailer, because there were a number of scenes involving the sort of bodily fluids that can result as thanks to seasickness. So the second act of the movie happens on a high-end yacht. So I mean, this is a pretty on-the-nose take on class in the modern world. But you get to the third act and it takes a bit of a turn that one does not expect, and then the ending is just like, okay, you're not even, it leaves it up to the imagination a little bit. Woody Harrelson plays the perpetually inebriated captain of the ship, featured in the second act. And yeah, it's I kind of wonder why it was nominated for the Oscars. It was, I think sometimes Hollywood likes to seem, enlightened by, oh, we're going to nominate something that's obviously picking fun at, people of a certain class that we tend to be members of ourselves as Hollywood elite. So, you can be even, you can demonstrate that, oh yes, you're in on the joke, you get it, haha. It's fun. It's not like a super duper movie, but it was definitely a little bit different than common fare nowadays. And I learned what triangle sadness actually means. And you can too. And that is available on Amazon Prime Video, at least here in Canada. And then we've got a couple of projects this week. One from Gray. Hello, Gray. Do we have connectivity? Gray seems to be frozen.
Mm-hmm.
James, do you have a project for this week? I didn't see a link from you.
No,
Okay.
I was trying to think if I had something that I could share, but I didn't have time to put something useful together. So I have my Instagram, my company Instagram. I've got some kitchen stuff that's gone up there recently, but that's about it. So nothing super exciting.
Okay, well, we'll find a link to Reynolds Cabinet Shop in the show notes for those who want to check out some of Jamie's latest work there. But Gray, we're finally back on together here. What have you been doing with Cambridge Engravers lately? Oh, can't hear you.
Audio.
That's because I can't hear you either.
Okay. Go, you.
So CambridgeEngravers.com, if you go to the Internet Wayback Machine from last week, you'll actually see my dad's website from 2006. Oh
boy, look at that.
Yeah. So it is not mobile friendly.
Nice.
It is ancient. It is painful, and it is just not good.
Vertical menu, yes.
Rush metal.
Yes. Yeah. I shouldn't say this. This was designed by a gentleman who is a friend of my dad's, and it has served him relatively well for almost a decade and a half. But this is a website that is now legally old enough to drink. So we've gone in and we've upgraded it with a new website from Squarespace because we're actually opening up. I'm actually opening up a division of Cambridge Engravers out in Vancouver. So I'm helping him to launch this out here. And we've done some search engine optimization, which actually has driven traffic up over like 300-400% over the last 2 or 3 years. So things are doing well. But we're moving on to a more robust site. And so, yeah, really proud to launch this, and happy that my parents' business is flourishing. So there you go.
Awesome. Fingers crossed that SEO doesn't get tanked with the new site. So I'm sure you're employing best practices to ensure the Google juice passes along to the new site.
I am indeed, yeah. So 301 redirects were required, and otherwise things are looking good. So
excellent.
Should be okay.
Just very quickly, what are some of the types of offerings that one could expect to find at Cambridge Engravers for those listening?
So ever since I was a kid, we've been doing things like trophies and awards. The original name of the business was Williams Trophies and Engravers. It was my mom, my dad, and I. So things like plaques, trophies, medals, that sort of thing. Any sort of recognition stuff. So everything from pens and pencils. In memoriam stuff. A lot of folks are doing things for their pets and for their family. Hopefully not in the same receptacle, but we're not going to judge. And my dad's also, he's an artisanal engraver who specializes in industrial engraving. So there's a guy that I went to high school with, Paul. He's one of our employees and a really great guy. So they do the industrial heavy stuff. There's things like elevator panels and things for nuclear facilities around the country where, you've got hard wearing stainless steel that has to be, heat treated so that it can withstand like environmental factors and so on. So there are very few people left that do this. And my dad and Paul are two of the guys who are capable of doing that. Where CNC can't handle it, humans can. So really, really cool stuff. And they do custom engraving as well. So your phone holder is ready, and we've done a number of other ones.
Excellent.
And yeah.
I'm going to just run away for 15 seconds and grab an example of your work to show on camera. While I'm doing that, can you describe some of the new types of things that we've talked a little bit in the past? Some of the new types of things that you'll be featuring in the Vancouver operations.
Yeah, so I'm also doing things like custom T-shirts. So we've got cutting and so on there. And I'm not really sure what else he meant, and it looks like I've just lost the stream.
Did you? You're still here.
I don't know. Okay, it popped up at the top.
You're still here for us.
The stream. You guys for us. Yeah. So
Okay.
So yeah, things like custom T-shirts and vinyl printing. So what else did you mean?
That sounds great. Great. Whatever you just said there, it was wonderful. I just wanted to come and show off something that you made for me like almost 9 years ago now, which I really enjoy. And I just used this past weekend. And it's basically I guess a plate or a stand for a motorcycle kickstand. So you put this on the ground, especially if you're parked on dirt or gravel. And you so generously had engraved I believe the 1970s variant logo of my brand of motorcycle, Moto Guzzi, on there, and is one of my cherished possessions. And on the back it says TJ14 because it was made for TJ in 2014. So this is yeah, can you believe it? This is this is, like I said, a cherished possession of mine, and I use it whenever I'm parking my bike on gravel or dirt. So things like that you can get at CambridgeEngraving.com.
Yep.
And our lovely and talented Tasia Custodi, who could not be with us this week, has another video to keep us occupied, in which she gives everyone a tour of her desk setup, her most helpful tech that she uses every day. So you can watch her video on YouTube. It's just a little 12-minute video. You can find her videos at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi, and all of her work at TasiaCustodi.com. That's it, gents. We did it. We started a little late, but we eventually brought it home. Aliens and all. Thank you very kindly, Jamie Reynolds, for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
And we hope that your week, and the week of anyone else that might be out there watching or listening, is truly momentous.